So the first thing that comes to our mind when I use the term finance, please answer in the chat box. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when we use the term finance? Yes, class. Okay, yes. What else? So the prime thing which can be seen from your responses is yes, we first talk about money and then we talk about investment. Very good. So, finance, the first and foremost thought is anything that involves money is finance. So, it is the term that is used for management, creation, study of money and investments. It is the management of money and valuables in the general sense. But when we talk about a proper definition of finance, then it is all about financial management, management of finances. And in this paper, we talk about management of finances for business in the context of business, how to raise the money and utilize the money. That is the primary function of finance we'll be discussing and covering in detail in this paper. Now, you can have a look at the definitions. It is the procurement and effective utilization of funds. The definition itself gives you two of the most important functions that are performed in finance. One, to look for sources of finance. So it's not always easy for a promoter or for the owner of the business to arrange all the financial requirements on his or her own. So then they look to outside sources of finance. Now, those can be very easily, you can approach your friend, your relative for a loan. That would be informal financing. Formal financing would be, say, going to a bank for a loan, for a corporate loan, or if you are a very big entity, you can go for issue of shares in the market, issue of bonds in the market. So, approaching the capital markets or taking that route to raising money, or if you have a unique business idea, you can approach a venture capitalist. So, looking for sources of finance, there are multiple sources, evaluating them, seeing the cost and benefit involved in each of these source, procuring the funds through that source after you make an informed choice, and then utilizing the funds effectively. That sums up the function of finance for business. Financial management is a related aspect of finance. So, we'll be talking about management of finances for business as already discussed. And this is all about, again, applying the general management principles for financial implementation. When we use the term management, management means managing others, getting work done through others, and it involves planning, arranging the resources, which is organizing, employing people to help you with the work, staffing, and then controlling, directing, motivating, leading your team, and controlling. Controlling is when you evaluate your performance at the end of a particular cycle. Now, finance also applies all these managerial principles. Financial management is all about applying these principles, that is, planning of finances for the firm, organizing, arranging the finances, then You have specialized staff that is managing the financial affairs. You are putting the funds to productive usage, which is effective utilization of funds. And then at the say end of the year, you evaluate your performance. इतना investment करी, इतना return मिला, कहाँ पर लूप होल्स रह गए, कहाँ पे हमारी शॉर्ट कमिंग्स हैं और कहाँ पे हम फर्दर इम्प्रोवाइज कर सकते हैं. All this is management of funds, management of finance, and together these functions make up the financial management of business. Moving ahead, coming to the features of finance. So, with finance, the next term which we have used is investment. What is investment? Can anyone tell me what do you mean by investment? Yes, anyone, you can unmute yourself and answer.
Putting in some money and expectation of some returns.
Just increase the volume. Yes, yes. Who was answering?
Yes, ma'am. Putting some
Yes.
money in expectation of some returns
Very
could be.
good, excellent. So instead of keeping money idly in your bank locker or in your homes in almiras, what you do is you try to earn something on that idle money. So even if I simply pick up the lump sum cash with me and I put it in my bank account, my savings account will give me some return. 4 to 6% के बीच में आपको रिटर्न मिल जाएगा by simply putting your money in your savings account. This is the simplest form of investment. Apart from this, you can pick the money, you can put the money in real estate, you can put the money in your stock market, in mutual funds. All these are different forms of investment. So, putting the money, investing the money today with the expectation of getting return, with getting the expectation of earning some return on the money is investment. So, finance is all about looking for profitable investment opportunities. So, that gives us the second feature of finance. When you are looking at an investment alternative, you see the cost that is involved, the risk that is involved, and what is the expected return. So, say at your age, you are comfortable taking risk. So, you have some small savings, you are comfortable taking risk, and you invest that money in the stock market. But for a retired individual, that kind of risk taking is not feasible. So, a person who is in his mid 60s would prefer keeping the money in a bank deposit, in a FD. That would be a safer option, minimal risk, with obviously a minimal return. So we see what is the trade-off involved. कितना रिस्क लेने पे आप कितना प्रॉफिट एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हो. That is all about evaluating the profitable investment opportunities available. जब हम बिजनेस के पर्सपेक्टिव से बात करते हैं, देन वी ऑलवेज टॉक अबाउट द ऑप्टिमल मिक्स ऑफ फंड्स. ऑप्टिमल इज द बेस्ट in the given circumstances. तो बेस्ट मिक्स ऑफ फंड्स वो होगा जिसमें ओनरशिप फंड्स भी होंगे, कुछ डेट एलिमेंट भी होगा, कुछ आप लोन बोरोइंग्स कर सकते हो. अब बोरोइंग्स का क्या फायदा होता है? आई एम टॉकिंग एवरीथिंग फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ द बिजनेस. So for business, debt or borrowings gives some benefit in the form of trading on equity. Now, this is a term which I'll be explaining you in detail in the coming classes. But for the time being, you can understand कि जब भी firm debt use करती है, loan, for example, loan would be the simplest example of debt. तो वहां पर जो इंटरेस्ट पे होता है लोन पर, दैट इज टैक्स डिडक्टेबल. व्हाट डू आई मीन बाय टैक्स डिडक्टेबल? कुछ अर्निंग्स होती हैं या कुछ इन्वेस्टमेंट्स होती हैं जो हमारी टैक्स पेमेंट को, टैक्स लायबिलिटी को कम कर देती हैं. जैसे हम एज एन इंडिविजुअल बात करें तो जो इनकम टैक्स एक्ट है वो सेक्शन 80C में हमें ऑप्शन देता है टू मेक इन्वेस्टमेंट. So if you make investment under the prescribed schemes or options given, for example, simplest being कि आपने 1,50,000 पीपीएफ में डाल दिया, विच इज द पब्लिक प्रोविडेंट फंड. तो आपकी जो टैक्सेबल इनकम है वो 1,50,000 से कम हो जाती है, और उसकी वजह से जो आपकी टैक्स लाइबिलिटी बनती है, टैक्स की पेमेंट बनती है, दैट ऑल्सो रिड्यूसेस. द सेम इज द केस फॉर द बिजनेस व्हेन यूजिंग डेट. जब डेट यूज करा, जब लोन लिया, तो लोन के ऊपर इंटरेस्ट पे करना पड़ता है. जो इंटरेस्ट की पेमेंट जाती है वो आपकी टैक्सेबल इनकम को कम कर देती है. यू reduce the business reduces the amount of tax from the profits it has earned, thereby reducing the tax liability. So all these things are kept in mind when the optimal mix of funds is decided for the firm. तो कितना ओनरशिप फंड हो और कितनी बोरोइंग हो, जब ये डिसाइड होता है तो सब फैक्टर्स कंसिडर करे जाते हैं. Then system of internal controls. So controlling, I already told you, management starts with planning, ends with controlling. So at the end of a particular period, you always see whether your planning has worked out well or not. So finance also, since involving money, which is a very, very important resource for the organization, you try and evaluate whether your internal controls are operating properly or not. Whether with the funds that were raised, आपने वो ऑब्जेक्टिव, आपने वो प्रॉफिट्स अचीव करे हैं जो आपने प्लान करे हुए थे. कौन से ग्रे एरियाज हैं, व्हाट आर द लूप होल्स, एंड वेयर द फर्म कैन इम्प्रोवाइज. This will help in future decision making. So you see, this is a proper flow of how things go about when you are managing the finance function in any organization. I hope this is clear. So, all the explanation related to this is in the PPT. The functions of finance give us the features of finance give us the functions of financial management or functions, objectives of finance. And first and foremost is rise in profits. So every business is operating with the objective of earning profits, with the objective of earning a good rate of return for the investors. This again can be achieved when the firm is able to maximize the earnings and reduce the cost involved. Financial management also helps in looking out for different sources of funds for the firm. As I told you, it can be the ownership funds, issuing shares or taking loan. All these can be different options of funding for the firm. Now, whenever these decisions are taken, each of the decision involves risk, and to ensure that the risk is minimized is again a very important function of financial management, because obviously if you increase the risk, your earnings will also increase. In finance, we use a phrase, higher the risk, higher is the expected return. एफडी में पैसा लगाना रिस्क फ्री है तो उस पे रिटर्न भी कम है, और अगर इन्फ्लेशन से एडजस्ट कर दो तो ऑलमोस्ट नेगेटिव ही रिटर्न आ जाता है एफडी के ऊपर. बट इफ आई पुट मनी इन द स्टॉक मार्केट दैट वुड गिव मी अ हायर रिटर्न, बट देन अगेन द रिस्क इन्वॉल्व्ड इज आल्सो वेरी हाई. और रिस्क क्या होता है इन्वेस्टमेंट में कि फियर ऑफ और probability of losing the principal amount invested. That is the risk which is involved. So, if you are ready to take more risk, you can expect a above average rate of return. Every business would see how to minimize the risk to the to a low level while earning good returns for the business. And all this is done with a long term perspective. You always try to create a good value for your firm in the long run. That is the main objective of financial management. So, each function, each step in the financial planning and implementation is done keeping in mind these functions, these objectives.